Hello, my name is Kathleen Carpenter, and this session is being recorded for the Warren County Educational Service Center. This presentation focuses on looking at the kindergarten, first, and second grade diagnostic instruments from the Ohio Department of Education, analyzing several items from each of those instruments, and then talking about what they mean and digging deeper into how these items can be used to help better figure out where children are in their learning. If you have any questions at the end of this presentation, I would encourage you to email me at the address on the screen. Before we begin this session, I'm going to be presenting several items from each of the three full diagnostic assessments. We're not going to be looking at the screening instruments. So if you are interested in having the entire instrument in front of you, you can go to the address on this screen to download those instruments. Again, you want to make sure you're downloading the full diagnostic measures and not the screening measures. In this presentation, I will have screenshots of several items from each assessment, but if you're interested in things like scoring guides and other administration issues, you would want to download those and have them in front of you. If you want to do that, you can hit pause on this presentation and do that now, and then pick up as we start to move through the items. So we're going to start with kindergarten, and what I've done for this presentation is to list the standard that each item is addressed according to what the Ohio Department of Education has laid out, and then we'll look at the specific item and talk about it. So the first item deals with this standard right here about comparing numbers, and specifically standard number 6, which is identifying whether the number of objects in one group, how it compares to the number of objects in another group. So here's the item that appears on the assessment. The first thing you do is you show the children the first set of leaves. And here are 2 leaves with ladybugs on them. That's the script. And you ask the children to circle the leaf with more ladybugs. If you notice on this first set of ladybugs, there are 5 ladybugs on one and only one on the other. And as you work with children in comparing numbers, you want to first of all start with either real objects, preferably real objects, such as counting chips or teddy bears or teddy bear counters or any kind of uniform counting object. But you also want to show them piles of objects or sets of objects that are very different in their number, in their count. So 5 and 1, it's very clear very soon to young children that the leaf on the left has more ladybugs. That's a very easy comparison, and if children have difficulty making that comparison, then that's something to start with in terms of helping them understand what more or less means. As they get more sophisticated in their learning, then you could move to comparing sets of objects like the second set of leaves, which is 3 objects on one leaf and 4 objects on the other leaf. That's not very different, but it is, first of all, a small number. You want to stick to less than 5 to start with, 5 or fewer probably. And then certainly give children strategies to figure out that comparison. Now, if you also notice, it's not asking them how many more ladybugs. It's just the more or less comparison. And that's an important thing to know too. So two items that come out of this, 2 ideas that come out of this item. First, start with sets that are very different in number, like 1 and 5. Then move to sets that are closer together. Keep the number small. And then also just keep the question about more or less, not how many more or how many less. That's a very difficult comparison situation. And we might be talking about that later, either today or in the next session. The second item then talks about this, deals with operations and algebraic thinking. And this standard in particular asks students to fluently add and subtract within 5. An important thing to note is that we want children, especially in kindergarten, to really focus on the understanding of the operation. So if you notice here, we're asking this children, and I'm going to go ahead and do a highlighter here so we can look at this. We're going to ask children to understand addition and to understand subtraction. We need to help them model those scenarios before we just start jumping into the standard that's even listed, fluently adding and subtracting within 5. However, since this is a diagnostic instrument, we do want to get a sense about whether or not children can have a beginning understanding of this. So let's look at the task. So this item asks the students to solve this equation. Given that this is a kindergarten test and this is early in the school year, I would not be surprised if children really struggle with this, especially initially, because first of all, this is all symbolic, and we're going to talk today about over and over again this cycle of starting with concrete, then moving to pictures, the iconic is also known, and then moving to symbolic. And there are several items in the assessment that have this kind of equation involved, and so children may not even know what that means at this point in the school year. The other thing to know is, if you notice, the box or the unknown is on the left hand side, and many times we're used to having that on the operation with the addition and subtraction being on the left hand side of the equation. That also sends an important message that as we write these equations, children need to have opportunities to see the box in many different locations, and we're going to talk about that a lot in first grade. So I would not be surprised if children really don't understand what's going on here, especially if they confuse the box as a shape and not as an unknown. And so at this point in the school year, at the early point in the school year, it does not trouble me at all that they don't understand this, because they need to have a lot of practice with how to write number sentences and what 5 minus 1 means and what the box means. If you want to put a question mark in the box or something like that. But certainly the children need a lot of opportunities to model the concrete equation before we ask them to just simply solve in a purely symbolic way. So this is a definite jump in sophistication for kindergartners. Again, we're still in this standard of understanding addition as putting together and understanding of subtraction as taking apart. But this next item focuses on solving addition and subtraction word problems. So we want to, and this is where, really the item that you just saw would probably come after, if you will, the item that you're about to see. Because we want children to have lots of experiences using objects, using drawings to represent problems before we just jump into this fluency expectation. And so let's look at this item and see what children are being asked to do. So Jane has 6 stickers. She gave away 2. How many does she have now? And so the children are asked to complete the sentence at the bottom and show their work. So this may involve them crossing out 2, or they might do something where they circle 2 and, give them away, kind of thing. And so the question is, are they able to take the picture of the 6 stickers, and you see that's very much scaffolded. They're not even asked to draw the 6 stickers, and then perform the action of giving them away. So this should be an item where, if children are struggling with this one, previously I said with item number 2, I'm not terribly worried if they don't get this one. If they don't get this one, then this is really going to tell us that we need to have a lot of conversation with them about what it means to give things away, have them perform this scenario, as well as similar scenarios as far as combining and taking away.